Hello, great ones. Welcome back to Live and Be Great. I'm your host, Latonya McDonald, spiritual psychological life coach, intuitive guide, and your reminder that healing is messy, powerful, and absolutely beautiful. On today's episode, we are having a conversation that I feel like every woman, no matter her age or season of life, needs to hear. And I'm not playing. My guest today is Alex Cobble-Frakes, a social entrepreneur, wellness expert, and the creator of the Agenda app. Alex has been gaining national attention, including a recent feature in the New York Post for the groundbreaking way she's reshaping conversations around hormonal wellness and feminine alignment. Her journey began after returning from the Peace Corps, when a personal health struggle led her into the world of hormonal intelligence. And now she's helping women understand their hormonal cycles not as a challenge, but as a source of strategy, power, and emotional clarity. What I love about her work is that she bridges the science of hormones with the soul of womanhood. She's giving women a practical and spiritual framework for reclaiming energy, purpose, and identity. That's the work. Alex, welcome to the show. I'm so excited for this conversation.
You so much for having me, and what a powerful intro. Thank you so much for reading it. It's funny to see we're in like year 7 and what kind of where you start out in business and where you end up in business like
Mhm.
is a really different place. I didn't anticipate to do this work when I started a period planner, but the more I learned about it, the more I realized we've all been held back because we just didn't understand. No one taught us how our bodies work, and we really had to like kind of duct tape our lives together, I think, to kind of
Mhm.
figure it out. So I'm so excited to be on your podcast today. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Of course, of course. And Alex, your story is powerful, from serving in the Peace Corps to becoming a leader in women hormonal wellness. Can you share what drew you into this work and why understanding hormones became such a transformational path for you?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So health and wellness has always been interesting to me especially when I came back from the Peace Corps. I was
Mhm.
going through my own health journey. My grandma was diagnosed with cancer and ultimately died in that year when I came back from the Peace Corps. So it
Mhm.
started to have me question our food, how are we eating, how are we living, what is really going into our bodies. I'd been on birth control at that point, and I
Mhm.
had read books like women's wisdom or woman code when I was in college, but then was still on birth control, wasn't really doing much with it. And the more I got into my own health journey, I was like, why are we not talking about this? Women are clearly like we're different, right? I'm looking around, I
Mhm.
see my friends. If you're a woman, you live with a woman, you're like 4 different people during the month, but we're just kind of made fun of, or we're not really
Mhm.
told why this thing is going on.
Yeah.
And then in 2018, I started my own health coaching company, and I was
Mhm.
tracking my sales, and I found that I had higher sales during the ovulation phase of my cycle. So I was
Mm.
making more money depending on when my sales calls were throughout the month. Like they were just going better.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see if anyone else I was like, "Am I crazy or is there something else? Is there
Mhm.
something else to this?" So I
Mhm.
found a study on exotic dancers, and they split the group into women on birth control and women who were not on birth control. And the women who were not on birth control all made more money in tips during ovulation, up to 30% more than any other time
Wow.
of their cycle. Yeah.
Mm.
And I was like, "What? This is crazy." And so I was like,
Yeah.
there's so much here. So as soon as I found that out, that's really what led me to wanting to create the planner so that women
Mhm.
didn't feel out of control, or because I would even think that about myself. I was like, I started a new habit. I feel amazing. Now 2
Mhm.
weeks later, I can't keep up with it. I'm a loser. What's wrong with me? Well, like my hormones just changed, right? So
Yeah.
everything that we do, the food that we eat, the nutrition that we do, the way we move our bodies all needs to change with our cycle because of the way we are different with every phase of our cycle.
Mhm.
So I kinda just fell down the rabbit hole, and after I fell down, I fell all the way down the
Yeah.
rabbit hole, and I'll
Yeah.
probably be, like, obsessed with this topic forever because it changes
Mhm.
our relationships, it changes our parenting dynamics, it changes everything that we do as women because our brain even codes trauma differently depending on what hormone we have predominantly in our brain. Like,
Mhm.
everything changes based on where we are in our cycle.
Wow. Okay, that is I'm so sure some people are listening like, "Okay, I need to get off birth control because"
Yes,
you know,
yeah, yes.
to
I
get
always
myself together. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, because we don't they're not our own hormones when we're on birth control, so it kind of almost
Mm,
flattens our personality out a little bit, and it makes our body think that we're pregnant when we're not pregnant. I'm like, I don't think
right.
that's good for your body to be thinking it's pregnant for a decade straight, 12 years straight, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's not the natural way, and all of these cascade of hormones, like, we complain a lot about the period, but really, like, when we ovulate, when we've got that cascade of luteinizing hormone, estrogen, testosterone, then we move into progesterone dominance in the second half, that
Mhm.
impacts our memory, it impacts our bone health, our muscle density, like,
Mm.
as we age. So when we're not having that natural cascade of hormones, it's really chipping away at our longevity, which is
Wow.
like, we're never even thinking about it that way, right? Like, when I went to get on birth control, they weren't like, "This could really make you, like, break all your bones when you're 60. Is that okay with you?" Like, they didn't tell me that. They were just like,
Right.
"Here, take this. This will be fine."
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, that is so it's so frustrating, but it's wonderful that you were able to have the experience that you have and you got the innovation from your own like
trial and error.
cycle. Right, trial and error. That those make the best. Those people make, us that actually use our stories and things of that nature and then try to look for community. That usually really, really is so groundbreaking and so helpful when you decide, okay, I can't be the only one that's going through this. Let me see, let me study, let me research. Not everybody's going to do it. So I'm definitely, happy that you decided to take on that responsibility, do the research based off of your own surgery and go first, right? That is awesome.
Thank
And
you.
also, so many women, I believe, are pushed into survival. They're pushed into
Yeah,
silence. They're overperforming because they're disconnected from their bodies, right? Like we're put
absolutely.
into a race that we were never meant to win, that doesn't take into account all these different parts of us. And the work that I do, especially when I like to take the astrology charts, the human design charts, even the numerology charts, and oftentimes I do see in those charts that, wait a minute, this energy reflects something different based off of certain cycles, natural cycles that your body goes through, right?
Yeah,
So if you would say instead of in March starting your business, or instead of in March asking for that promotion, wait till the 13th of February, right? That might be a better day for you based off of your natural cycles, even in the stars, and of course the trauma that you've experienced, right? Getting out of your own way. So it's good to have these systems to help you structure the right strategy for yourself whenever you're going after your goals. And Alex, you teach intelligence as a way for women to reclaim their emotional balance and energy and confidence. For some, when hearing this, man, this could be this I would say this is so different because you usually just chalk it up to the mood swings and then you leave it as that, right? But when we talk about hormonal intelligence, what does that actually mean, Alex?
yeah.
And can you break it down for us?
Yeah, let's go through the 4 phases because that can be a great way for people to start to understand this framework, and I think as soon as you hear it, you're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, of course, that makes so much sense." So, I'll
Mhm,
also add in the seasons. That's from Red School in the UK. They're like, look at our inner seasons versus the outer seasons, and then I
mhm,
can talk about the moon phases a little bit too. So it seems like a lot of information, but I'll break it down into little chunks. So our
Perfect.
period, when we're on the first day that you need a period product, this
Mhm,
is the time in our month where our hormones are actually at their lowest point. So in order to let your period start, your hormones, estrogen and progesterone drop to their lowest point, then you start bleeding and then they slowly start to come back up. So that's where you see like the beginning of that little chart everyone likes to show of our wavy
mhm.
hormones, right?
Yeah.
So like your period day 1 is when they're at their lowest. And so
Mhm,
this is the time where communities and indigenous peoples all around the world have used the red tent time as like that metaphor, but like women were actually seated quietly somewhere
mm,
because there's a lot to show that this is our time where we have heightened intuition. There's
mhm,
another really great podcaster called Loose Warrior, and she says bleed on it. So like she says, do not
mhm,
make a purchase, do not make a big decision, don't make a move, don't make a breakup until you've sat with yourself in meditation on your period, because this is
mm.
the time when we are highly intuitive. We're highly tuned in. Our
Yeah.
brain is communicating differently. And so at the agenda, so like then that's like our inner winter time, right? So that's when
Mhm,
we're really like hibernating or maybe internal to ourselves.
mhm.
And this is also like the new moon. So when the moon is dark in the sky, right? This is this
Yeah.
low energetic point. So this
Mhm,
is the time to be vision casting, planning in terms of like, I want to do something in my business this month. I want to do something with my family. I want to think about a trip. It's about journaling it down, getting the
mhm.
skeleton or the framework. It's not about getting up and running around like a chicken with your head cut off and going to do all those things.
Yeah.
It's just about sitting quietly and taking the time to plan
Mhm,
during that phase. Then our estrogen starts to come up, and then we move into the follicular phase, which is our inner springtime, and it's
mhm,
the waxing moon. So when the moon starts to get bigger in the sky, and this is because luteinizing hormone starts to pick up, follicle stimulating hormone, estrogen, so all the stuff that gets our eggs ready for the next
mhm.
batch pick up. And during this time of the month, our body wants to get pregnant, even if our brain does not want to get pregnant. So
Mhm,
our body, estrogen makes us act very pro-social. So if your husband, you're like anything your husband does will be cuter during this time. You'll like
mhm.
think that everyone's nicer. It's so easy to be a mom during this time, right? Like they say
Mhm,
mama a million times. You're just like, what, honey? How can I help you? And like,
mhm.
because estrogen protects our brain from our social battery getting drained, and this is
Right.
evolutionary, this is like in
Mm,
our evolution, is
mhm.
because we want to potentially get pregnant and mate during this time, our body, it wants us to be talking to everybody and wants us
Mm,
to be connecting with people,
mhm,
and makes it easier for us to do those things. So then for work, it's like think about networking, thinking about going to a new meeting. It's a great time for product launches because we've got that energy of newness and freshness and possibility that's baked into our cyclical bodies.
yeah.
Ovulation is the next phase. This is our shortest phase. This is like the full moon. So this is the potency, like the hot, right? Like the
Mhm,
hot mama phase. You're probably going to feel the most confident. Your skin looks really great during this time. It's
yeah.
going to be easier for you to ask for a raise, do content, have your husband book that vacation, right? Like this is the
Mhm,
spicy potent time, and this is a really great spiritual time for manifesting and receiving. Like first you dreamed about it, then you went out and did the work for it, and now it's about receiving and manifesting and allowing the things to come to you during this phase of the cycle.
mhm,
And then the last phase is the luteal phase. So this is our inner autumn time. So and it's kind of broken up into two big chunks. So like the first big half of the luteal phase, we move into our pro self orientation. Our
okay.
body does this for a very specific reason. It's because we can if we got pregnant, our body wants to keep us pregnant.
Mhm,
So we turn all of our energy inwards to ourselves to make sure we're protecting the vessel for a potential pregnancy. But that means if your husband's been annoying you, if your kids are being really draining,
mhm,
like those things, because our hormones are turned into caring about our inner system, can
mhm,
cause more conflict, can cause more fighting, can cause more irritation. It can cause all of those issues if once we're in our pro social or pro self orientation. And then those last couple of days, our hormones start to drop, and that's when we can get very sensitive, right? Like we're
mm,
highly in tuned with our emotion. We're much more, things are more top of the surface. And just like you pointed out, people look at this as like women are crazy or erratic. I
mhm,
think it really shows that we transition seamlessly throughout our month into these different skill sets, into these different things that allow us to tune into a different part of our own needs or of our community needs. Where men, their hormones are pro self every single day.
mhm,
Men have
mhm,
a pro self hormonal, like testosterone is a pro self. It makes the brain protective. It makes men look after themselves. It makes them not worried about risk, right? Because it
Mhm.
turns them into their own risk reward
Yeah.
orientation. So men are always like that all the
Mhm.
time. And women, because of estrogen, we're not like that all of the time.
Yeah.
But we can really see how these two halves can start to work together when people just understand what's going on.
Mhm. I love that. I love that. That's so powerful. And, you know, in my clients' charts, when you talked about the intuition being at its highest, right? That's also the time like when they talk about full moons, even in astrology, they talk about full moons and how you're supposed to manifest and how even pay attention to your dreams, right? Like your dreams are lucid or they feel more realistic, like different signs in your dreams when it comes
Yeah.
to those moon phases. And some studies, some religious studies, that people have gone through when they look at the moon phases, they even tell women like on a full moon, you should go outside, spend time while the full moon is rising so that your cycle can sync up with the moon. Like that is something that, you know, I have people that I know that have actually tried that. And for some reason, spiritually, they just feel more stronger, more intuitive, more, I mean, I guess more balanced when they use those gifts that they have of intuition and manifesting and things of that nature. So it's definitely worth a shot. Like I don't feel like anyone has anything to lose if we try to adapt really, really strategizing with these moon phases and our cycle phases. So that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. And to think you have a whole world, like I love that you brought that to my attention. We have a whole world going and seasons changing inside of us because it feels like that. It makes sense.
Yes. When we talk about created in the image of God, we talk about like,
Yes.
look at our planet. It is cyclical. Look at the people on
Mhm.
this planet that birth anything. It is the females of all the species. We literally live on a period planet that is like our reproduction mimics the way that the earth moves every single
Mhm.
month. It's crazy. Women are so deeply, deeply powerful. And so then it becomes like, it's like, then I always say, I put on my capitalist hat and I say, follow the money. So like, why wouldn't want the world of work want women to be in tune with this? Well, because it
Yes.
wouldn't make them as much money if we're not acting like little robots every day. But when women are allowed to work with their ebbs and flows, when you are allowed to take a break, you have less period pain, you recover faster, and you have more energy the rest of the month.
Right.
Well, then the world of work doesn't really want us to be super healthy because then we won't maybe want to do what they want us to do all the time and we wouldn't be going around like ignoring our bodies. So they have instead got women to buy into this idea that periods are gross and disgusting and we shouldn't talk about them because it
Mm,
hides our greatest power as women is our
mm.
menstrual cycle.
It is. And I don't know, it just I've already talked about this on my, you know, on my podcast earlier episodes that I'm shifting to believing that God is a woman because
God is a yes.
like
Yes.
when I'm thinking about like first of all, we all scientifically we all start off as female. We just do.
Yes.
And when we think about
Created
the
in her image, right? And like
right,
literally
the
created from a
womb,
woman.
yeah, the womb, the water, it's like okay, I'm I'm in the erasure, right? Like what you
Yes.
just said there, they don't want us to think about our cycles because it's this, because it's that. But a woman has to literally give up her whole entire body in order to bring life into the world. So to me, that sounds more godlike than just the
And like
seed, right?
and
They
like how
both matter,
magical.
but
How
yeah,
magical too, like, I carried
exactly.
twins, and I was like
Hmm.
I had twins in 2020, and I'm like, I could be
Mm,
like, my uterus is 3D. I we don't know how,
yeah.
because they have tried to incubate a human egg that has been fertilized outside of a uterus, and it
Hmm.
won't grow. They can't
Mm,
grow one in a tube, because there's something that literally happens in the womb space that they cannot replicate with machines, because
right.
it is magic. I'm like, my body, it could be 3D printing a kidney right now. Like, how does it know? Who knows? But, like, that is something to be, like, honored, and, like, I was like, the reverence of that. Women are so incredible that our bodies can do this. Men are cool too, but I think that they're jealous that they can't make people, so they had to make us feel bad about our body. I'm like,
Oh, Ah, that's another rabbit hole right there. Another uncomfortable rabbit hole, but, I feel like it's worth a try.
Yeah.
It really is worth a try. I love that. So women, when they understand their hormones, suddenly the why behind their emotional experiences become easier. It's not
Yes.
I'm crazy or I'm too much or oh, this is my body communicating with me. That shift alone is healing. And I'm sure, after you had your children, you weren't the same any longer, right? Like a part of you is now shifted and has to become someone else, right?
It actually
Not just
changes your brain. It does. Like,
yeah.
scientifically, matronase changes
Mhm.
your brain chemistry, and it is altered forever once you are a mom.
Yes.
The process of birthing people changes your
Right.
brain. Yeah,
Exactly. It really,
crazy.
really, truly does. And that natural experience, even when we talked about how women have this natural, innate ability to want to nurture everything, right? I was laughing about this with my husband the other day, how women they go based off of potential and women and men they go based off of what is right now, right? What they
Yep,
see right now, they don't want that to change. And we do need women to stop doing that, right? Like it's natural for us to want to nurture and create and to build. But we do need to work through, when we choose a partner and when we
yes,
make certain decisions that okay, yeah, you see the potential, but also focus on what do you see right now in front of you and be willing to put up with that, right? If you're going to make the decision to take that leap of faith, that what if this never changes, right?
yeah.
And one thing that you emphasize when you talk about your studies and your work is shifting from resistance to rhythm. Can you speak on how living in rhythm reshapes a woman's productivity, relationship, and sense of self?
Yeah, I think a lot of those conflicts happen in modern world because women are saying yes too much in the first half of their cycle. We're having bad boundaries because we love to nurture things, because we love the
Mhm.
potential of something. then
Mhm.
then we wear ourselves out, and by the time we're in the luteal phase, then we can be really snappy and irritated with everybody because we haven't been taking care of ourselves. And so the menstrual cycle can become almost a spiritual orientation because it has built-in periods for rest,
Mhm.
recuperation, slowing down naturally, and then times where you say yes to a lot more. And so what we do in my home is like we plan activities for my family around my menstrual cycle because my
Mm.
partner's cycle is the same every day. His doesn't change, right? He wakes up, he's got more testosterone, but
Mhm.
mine does. And so on times when I'm at my like this weekend I was in the luteal phase, my luckily, my mom was watching the kids because my period's about to start. But
Mhm.
sometimes we'll have a movie night in, or we'll have a slower time versus like we're gonna plan activities when I'm in the follicular phase. We're gonna go visit family or go on the road or go
Mhm.
do that stuff when I've got the energy for it because it doesn't make sense for women to keep saying yes to stuff that they
Mhm.
don't have to say yes to when it's not going to feel good in their body. So I
Yeah.
think the first step for that for women is to understand what is going on in your body. Start to
Mhm.
actually pay attention to your own cycle because if we think about it from one period to the next, that's normally about a month. So many things happen in a month
Mhm.
attention, you
Yep.
won't notice that the pattern is happening. So as a
Mhm.
health coach, that's always my first orientation for people is like, can you take 5 minutes a day to prioritize yourself, to jot down how you're feeling, to start to
Mhm.
understand your cycle? Because then when you understand that, then you can start to slowly change your schedule in a way that maps with what is happening. Because we always keep trying to ignore our body to do whatever we think we want to do
Mhm.
anyway.
Mhm.
And instead, when we start to plan the other way, plan with what our body has the capacity for, it reduces illness, it reduces stress, it reduces fatigue, and we end up feeling so much better in our lives, in every area of our life, when we let that operating system be our guide for what we
Mhm.
sign up for in the rest of our
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. I love that so much. And I see the same pattern in generational healing, like where women inherit beliefs about worthiness tied to performance.
Yep.
Like if I'm not valuable, I can't take a nap because I'm not doing anything.
Yep.
Or, the brave ones who stay at home with their children, they feel like, oh, you're not doing anything, you're just staying home with the kids. No, it's a lot of work. Okay, it
A
really
lot of work.
is. And when women honor their rhythm and they reclaim agency from those inherited scripts, they stop bleeding all over everybody that didn't cut them, right? When you start to give yourself grace, you can give up grace, right? But you have to demand it first. You got to stop abandoning yourself. That is the true work. And I was wondering, we talked about birth control. I know some people, they have to be on birth control because they may have fibroids, right? And
Yeah.
the fibroids, they cause you to bleed a whole lot more, right? And they're in your uterus. So technically, that's also, if they're put on that birth control to stop that over and that heavy bleeding, uh, you not only have the birth control, but you also have that fibroid there or multiple fibroids there that, there's no way you're telling your body you're not pregnant then for sure, right? Because there's
Yeah.
a tumor there and things of that nature. Have you been able to figure out how we can still use that same system if they
Yeah.
medically need to, be on birth control?
Yeah, that's a great question, and
Mhm.
I wanna say first, I'd love to answer this point, and then we can talk about how because
Mhm.
there's absolutely a way.
Okay.
They It's so frustrating to me not that these women are not doing anything wrong, that often it takes them 10 to 15 years to even address that they have a fibroid, if they've had
Mhm.
abnormal bleeding. So
Yeah.
then now at this point, there's, like, nothing to do except for go on birth control or get a full hysterectomy.
Mhm.
Those are a complete sham, and it shows how
Mhm.
little money, funding, resources go into women's health, because
Mhm.
none of our hormonal health conditions are because of a deficit of birth control, right? Like, that's
Right.
not a natural thing in no
Mhm.
human's body's like, "I need more birth control, and that would stop these problems." No, birth
Yeah.
control is a Band-Aid over those things, and
Mhm.
it is, like, so horrendous that women are not getting the support that they need. So, good things for fibroids can be looking at anti-inflammatory diets, looking at a lot of the same
Mhm.
food recommendations that are recommended for thyroid or any of the other parts of the endocrine system, because that can really help reduce symptoms and even shrink the
Mhm.
size of fibroids. So if
Right.
somebody is currently on those, we would have them track with the phases of the moon. So
Mm.
take the new moon when it's dark in the sky, kind of take that as your period time. And
Mhm.
then, when it's around the full moon, think of that, maybe do a full moon ritual for yourself. Think about that as your manifesting time. Or if you've
Mhm.
got the sugar pill pack, you can use the same information, but use it with the sugar pill if you do bleed as your week of your period. So there's a
Mhm.
couple of different ways to play around with that and still use the same framework, but most folks like to really tap into the moon phases. They're like, "Yeah, I don't know what's going on in here, but I can
Yeah.
use plan with those phases." So take it quieter around the new moon, do more work around the full moon, around the ovulation time, so they can still work with those ebbs and flows by following the moon.
Got you. Okay, perfect, perfect. That's awesome. That is curated to that because yes, it is so many women, specifically African American women, that deal with the fibroid issue, and the doctor usually unfortunately, puts the child on, they could be a teenager having this issue, or, even preteen having the issue of the heavy bleeding and the pain, and they don't even look for the fibroids. They just
Yeah.
automatically recommend birth control,
Yeah.
right? Which
And that's
is
the
frustrating. Mhm.
it's so frustrating. This is something I didn't know until, like, I started doing this work. It can take
Mhm.
up to a decade for your cycle to mature. So even
Mm.
in a teen, having irregular cycles is not a good reason to go on birth control, because it
Mhm.
just can take your endocrine system a whole decade to really get up and running where you're having, like, perfectly timed out cycles. And
Mm.
so those heavy periods, that can be a real sign of other nutrient imbalance in the body, of, like,
Yeah.
maybe needing to adjust what we eat. And it can be as simple as that, like making sure we have enough magnesium and zinc in the body, making sure, but like we don't know. So doctors are incentivized to give you birth control because they're paid billions of dollars by birth control companies. It's a multi-billion dollar industry. So they're not
Mm,
incentivized for to sit down with you and go through the food, the nutrition. So it's really like, how do we get those extra resources out to people so young girls aren't suffering? Maybe even
right.
have something to try before they get on birth control.
Yeah, we have to talk about it more. That's the main thing. Talk about it.
Yes.
More people need to tell their stories. Like, for instance, I remember being anemic, right? And the doctors looking at my blood, and they called my mom, and they said, "We feel like your daughter, first of all, your daughter's not blood count is a 14, and it's supposed to be, no, your daughter's birth blood count is a 7, it's supposed to be 14, something like that." And they said, "We feel like she may have had 3 abortions and 5 miscarriages." And I was still a virgin. And I'm like, "You
What?
calling my mom to tell her that all this happened because of my blood count, and nobody thought to, like, look at me, like, really look at me," right? Like, that was, I
Crazy.
mean, they forced, after I had to tell my mom, when they did what was it? Not the Pap smear, they thought that I was still a virgin, and they couldn't understand, the blood loss, and then I had to let them know, well, my cycle lasts 11 days, right? And "Oh, that's abnormal," and,
Should have been their first question to you. That should,
yes.
like, what? Instead of going down this, like, fanciful thing, like, what the heck?
Yes, yes, have
Oh my,
my mom
you
looking
poor
at
thing.
me
That's
crazy.
horrible. That's
Yes, she was looking at me
horrible.
like, "What do you mean? All these abortions and miscarriage, what?"
Mine
No,
was
like, that was
it
not
they
that was
just
not
don't care,
it.
like, they just don't
Mhm,
care, right? Like, I got the IUD in when I was in college, and
mhm,
they're like, "Just take a couple Tylenol, you'll be fine before you come over." And I was like, "Okay."
mhm,
Then they proceed to, I had never had kids at that point, so the cervix is not open the same way before you have
right,
children. They
mhm,
gave me something to soften the cervix, apparently that didn't do anything, and then just shoved the thing up there, like, they just shove a piece of
mhm,
metal through your cervix and then expand it out, and I was, like, screaming at the top of my lungs.
mm,
They do a less invasive procedure for a vasectomy, and they get local anesthesia.
yeah,
And they are, because they said that the cervix didn't have any nerve endings.
mm,
That was what was seen relevant in medical literature until like
mhm.
2023. And I'm like, have you guys never heard of a
Oh my
cervical
god.
orgasm? There's documented proof that there are nerves in the cervix. What do you mean you thought there were no nerves there? Medical doctors, what?
Right.
That there was no feeling in the cervix? Like they just thought there was nothing going on down there. No big deal.
They don't see, you know what? And that leads back to them pretending that God is not a woman. That's the issue, right? Because you
Exactly.
think what's going on in this uterus is just we just pop them out like popcorn. And there's nothing really serious going. That's the problem, to
Problem.
the discard of women's bodies and not really taking into account like the seriousness of it. It's so, so frustrating. So yeah, it's definitely important. I'm grateful for you, Alex, to be able to be one of the ones to speak about how we can really, really, really make this important and change the way systems work, right? It's it's definitely necessary. And when you talk about, again, hormonal intelligence and how it supports women through big transitions, we have premenopause, reinvention, motherhood, and even mental divorce. Um, all the things we don't talk about enough, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like we are in a cultural moment where women over 50 are redefining identity and fulfillment. So, for you, how do hormones shape those turning points and what's happening in the body during those shifts?
I love this question. So
Mhm,
we've talked a lot about men on divorce this year because
mhm,
it turns out 70% of divorce that is initiated by women happens during perimenopause. And
mm.
people like to say that women are going crazy and that's why they're divorcing their husbands. But you know how I was this is how I think those hormones impact these major changes. I was
Mhm,
talking about we have the two major halves of the cycle where we're in a pro-social orientation and then a
mhm.
pro-self orientation. So
Yeah.
as we get deeper into perimenopause, we spend more and more time in our pro self orientation. So finally, after decades, women are thinking more about, does this work for me? Is this
Mhm,
serving me? Is this partnership one I'm really proud of? Is my husband showing up in the same way that I'm showing up for him? Like, are we giving a similar amount of effort and value? Is there reciprocity here? What about
mhm,
this workplace? Is this working for me? So, as you're spending more and more time in your pro self orientation, we're just having more honest conversations with ourselves without that buffer of estrogen making us feel like everything's perfect. We get more of that clarity coming through to say, like,
mhm.
is this working for me or is this not working for me? And if we find out that
Yeah.
it's not working for us, that's when women begin to make really serious shifts in their life. Maybe leaving that marriage of 20 years, maybe leaving that career that wasn't serving them, starting their own company, right? Women get to take that energy that has been put into nurturing, to put into growing babies, to put into everyone else, and we start to bring it back for ourselves. And
Yeah.
men seem to not like that, even though that's kind of what they're doing the whole time, is
Yeah.
focusing on the thing that they think is the most important. But what stays really different for women, even after menopause, that stays really different for why women are supposed to be the leaders of the planet, in my opinion, is because even after menopause, we still have estrogen in slow amounts
Mhm.
in our brain. And estrogen is the hormone that makes us think about other people.
Mm. Yeah.
And men have a little bit of estrogen, never to the levels that we have it, and it declines with their other hormones that decline over age. They're not programmed in their brain to keep thinking about other people, to keep centering relationship, to keep centering community. Women's
Mhm.
brains are literally wired to lead communities.
Yeah. That makes
And
sense.
and that does not change when we age. We just get more clear about, okay, all this extra energy that I was putting into making people, I can now use to make projects. I can now
Mhm.
use to turn to myself. So I really think that those hormones become our guide for the second half of our life by taking everything we learned in the first half and really then turning that into our community orientation because women are always wired for that.
Mhm. That makes a lot of sense. So you can even think about certain careers that might be better sourced for you depending on what phase you are when it comes to your
Yeah,
hormones, huh?
absolutely.
This might be more that you can take on, might be less.
Yeah.
If it's pro self for sure, that might be around the time that, if you don't like what you're doing at
Get
work,
something else.
you're ready to
Yep.
go.
Ready to go. Women, it's just like when it that yeah, so
Mhm.
I want that to be so clear. It's not that women are going crazy. It can feel like
Yeah.
that if you have no support, but really
Mhm.
why those things start to irritate you is that they've never really been working for you. You've just put up with them.
Yes.
And then you get to a point where I can no longer like the sweater is too itchy. I have to take it off, right? It's been
Mhm.
scratching me this whole time, but I pretended the sweater was fine, and now I have to take the sweater off and I have to tell you guys the truth. This is not working for me. So it's not that women were lying before, it's just they had more tolerance for putting other people's needs in front of their own. They
Yeah.
have less and less and less tolerance for that as they age.
Right. They're spent, basically.
Spent. Yep. Absolutely.
That makes so much sense. Because when it comes to those different phases, those different cycles, the transitional years, like in astrology, we have something called like a Saturn return. So during that time, it usually happens around in your 30s and up. All the work that you've put in, right? It's time for that reward, basically. And it's kind of like a karmic exchange. Like if you have been putting in all the work in yourself, you get what you desired. what you manifested during that time once you actually learn how to handle it. And I think it's also right on par for people actually having children later in life, right? You feel more prepared, you feel more like you can do more, you feel like you have more to offer and things of that nature. I mean, of course, there's a fear like, will I have more energy? Will I have less energy? And things of that nature. But I could see why there are, more and more women that are like, okay, I want to wait and make sure I have my full life together before I bring a child into this world, regardless of everybody telling me it needs to be in my 20s, it needs to be, teenage, right before you turn in your 20s and things of that nature, because that fear is that what if I can't keep up? But I feel like there's part women are listening to that inner part that's saying, "Wait, I'm not ready. Like, I can barely take care of myself right
Yeah.
now. Like, let me wait until everything actually makes sense, when it comes to what I'm actually going through, but besides or forget about what everybody else is telling me I should be going through." So it's a full body, mind, spirit, soul transformation. It's not just getting older, it's becoming. And I feel like that's powerful, right? And I want you to talk some, of course, let's talk about the Agenda app you created, which is the tool that helps women track their cycles and understand their inner seasons and actually apply hormonal intelligence to life, not just theory, but application. So, how does it work and what kind of transformations have you seen from women using it?
Those are awesome questions. So the app is free to use. It's really beautiful. We spent a lot of energy and love designing it so it'd feel intuitive for people. And one of the things that's really cool is you can go in there and you can sync your cycle information to your Google Calendar. And so then
Mhm,
when you're working, you have just these little reminders that show up and they say what's going on in your day or what phase you're in. And it gives you a little tool on like how you can help yourself that day. So that's something that's really, really fun in there. And we also we give you tips or like, "This is your agenda page." We give you
mhm,
recommendations on things to work on and self-care ideas that you can work on. We've got new content that goes in there every week, so we're always writing blogs and giving new information to people, which is a ton of fun.
mhm,
And then we also when you're in there and you're tracking your symptoms, we recommend products to you. So we
mhm,
actually want people to stop having the issues that they're having. So we recommend products for them, and almost every founder, all the products are female founded companies in there. So we're really,
mm,
really choosy about who we have in there.
mhm,
And then the other thing that's like with the agenda that we're working on, so this is a little teaser, but
yeah,
the pre-order will be coming out next year. We're actually
mhm,
creating the very first protein powder for women in perimenopause. So it will have two
mm,
different blends. So one for the first half of your cycle with different nutrients in it and different,
mhm,
it'll have protein and fiber and a lot of great stuff for your cycle. And then the second blend will be for the luteal phase so that that functional nutrition can actually be a part of solving the hormonal operating question so that you can
mhm,
actually get that nutrition in the morning. Because we all know moms who are running out with a black cup of coffee in the morning and then wonder
mhm,
why they feel like shit by noon because they haven't eaten anything and they're running on fumes and then they feel even worse in perimenopause. So we actually
mhm,
want to give women a way to start their morning that centers their hormonal support right away, very first thing. Because think of how good the rest of your day goes if you're paying
mhm.
attention to your hormones right there in the morning. It changes everything.
Right. Okay. Now, and how would you use it for the syncing up with the moon, for those women who, have those medical issues with their
Yes.
cycle? Yeah.
So you would start the one for that is from your period through ovulation. You'd start that one on the new moon, and
Mhm,
then right after the full moon, then you start the second one, the one for the luteal phase.
mhm, and then sync that up with your calendar.
Yep.
Perfect. That is often, and yeah, I love it, I love it. Something that I see often in my work is that, women struggle with self-trust because of generational patterns, where their mothers, grandmothers, and community molded them, and they inherited distrust of their bodies, right? Their own intuition, their own voice. It's the argument that people use as to why they don't want a woman president.
Yeah, I know.
So how does, I would say, hormonal awareness help women rebuild that self-trust, emotional clarity, and a deeper relationship with themselves, would you say?
I would say once you understand it's just going on biologically, you can take it seriously, not personally. So
Mhm,
it can be really easy to feel like, oh, I'm so nitpicky or I'm so ouchy, like maybe I'm just a mean person. But when you
mhm,
understand your body is trying to protect you, your body is set up for our reproductive support, that your
mhm,
hormones are there's nothing wrong with you. But the thing that's wrong is ignoring your body. I think when people understand that, they can start to give themselves the grace and the patience and
mhm.
really start to have a much better appreciation for themselves. So when women understand that that map is going on, I think they feel a lot better.
I believe so. I believe so. I believe that will work when you understand what's going on, when you honor what's going on, when you understand that you're a creator, you're definitely godlike.
Yes, that is
So you
so
take it seriously. Don't push it aside. If you have daughters, really, 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 if you learn how to take your own autonomy seriously, if you really, really do the work to understand the gravity of who you are and what your body can do, you can do the same. You can pass that on to, your daughter or your grandchildren instead of the destructive norm that really, really, unfortunately takes a toll and really misvalues who we are and what we can do as women, right? And I'm glad that we
absolutely.
have this app, Alex. This is definitely, definitely groundbreaking and supportive, and it's inclusive, I believe, because I don't want anybody to think that Alex is saying that you only are here to create babies.
No, and we're saying actually the opposite, right? Like people ask us if
Mhm.
we're gonna add in fertility stuff, and I'm like, we're not adding in fertility tracking
Right.
because your hormones are important if you wanna make a person or if you never wanna make a person.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
you can use that, I call it the egg. You use your egg every month. What are you gonna create? What are you gonna manifest? So I spent most of my
Mhm.
time not creating babies, and I'm like, "Okay, I wanna launch this project, like, here's this next dream that I have." I'm using the stuff that's going on in my body for my own benefit. It is not just about creating more people. It is about creating the life that you wanna have for yourself, and your body helps you do that naturally. How cool. It's so freaking cool.
It's very, very cool. So, of course, I have to ask you because I have to ask all of my guests. I got complaints because I didn't. Um, what is your sign?
I am a Leo.
You are, oh, whoa.
And a projector in human design. I was like, "Yes, you wanna talk
And
about."
you're a projector. Oh, isn't wow. So you
I'm a July Leo. I'm a July Leo too, and that I know that means different things to the astrology girl.
It does, because you connected to that, the mood swinging Cancer. Um, you can't beat that allegation right there. August Leos
Ooh.
definitely try to separate from you guys. For sure. And you're a projector. So projectors are basically like Gandalf. They're like the orchestrators. So for sure, when it came to you giving yourself great, you had to do a lot of work. Alex, being that Leo and Leo usually have abandonment issues because their parents are usually emotionally unavailable.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes, and yes. Yep.
and so they put a lot of pressure on themselves to be perfect, in the eyes of people that were never meant to see their greatness. So wow, the fact that you're a projector, they say in human design that projectors don't have the same energy as, like a generator or a manifesting generator or anybody else. They don't have that absorbent amount of energy, so they feel like they're lazy, even if they are running for, 10 hours on fumes. They still feel like they're not doing enough, or if they're getting tired, they can't really do the things that, normal kids do, or they burn out a little bit quicker, they have a lot of shame around that. And one thing, oh my goodness, that is hard because Leos do not like lazy people at all. Like, they don't like people that's unmotivated. So to be in your space and to be that projector and also feel like, okay, I'm never doing enough, even though I'm dog tired, I need to do more. You gotta do a lot of work, Alex, to even say or even tell people today that they need to give themselves grace.
I had to do a lot of work, and I think that work's not done to do that, and
Yeah.
to really it is hard. I'm a type A person to, like,
Mhm.
rest during the luteal phase is sometimes
Mhm.
like nails on a chalkboard for me to learn how to do that, and it's the only thing that's worked. I've seen everything, and for
Mm.
women are always unhealthy when they're unaligned with their menstrual cycle every single time.
Mhm.
It's the only it's the it is because it is the way we are deeply wired, so allowing
Yeah.
myself to take that medicine, allowing myself to slow down on my cycle, allowing myself like, I'm even in it's the winter. I'm in Iowa, and we got a foot of snow
Mhm.
outside, and it's just like, we're not supposed to be planting seeds right now. We're not supposed to be
Mhm.
launching projects right now, right? We're supposed to be hibernating until spring. We're in the planet's inner menstrual cycle or outer
Mhm.
menstrual cycle, right? We're supposed to
Right.
all be chilling out, yet we keep pushing ourselves forward. So, yeah, I've had to really become a totally different person to be able to build this company.
Yeah, you have to fight. You really had to you really had to fight. Alex has to fight herself to allow herself to sleep. So
Yes.
wow. Oh my goodness. Well, you're doing it. Okay.
Mm.
So all self-loathing Leos out there, there's no excuse. Look at Alex, okay? There's no excuse. You can give yourself grace, okay? Or you will burn out. You will burn out for sure, for sure. And the women out there, definitely pay attention to both, like what your chart says and what your hormone says. And when you download the app, you can look at the agenda, okay? And you can really, really line yourself up with what is working for you and not don't try not to, go when you are getting all of this resistance. Okay. Now it's time. And hopefully with the app, with the notifications that you get, you'll get that little trigger like, okay, this is why I'm so tired. This is why I'm so frustrated right now. I need to stop trying to force this thing and do it at this time versus the time that, I'm telling myself it needs to be done. I get it. Wow. That's something, Alex. I look at this completely differently now. I really, really do. I really, really do. Even more props. More props to Alex for doing this work that wasn't easy, right? So, Alex, I just want to thank you for such a powerful conversation. You've really given women a way to understand themselves and not, I would say, not be so predictable or not feel like they're predictable, right? Or just overly emotional, but they're
Yep.
rhythmic, they're intuitive, and deeply intelligent beings. That's what we need to hear, okay? And to my listeners, if you're having identity burnout, reinvention, perimenopause, emotional overwhelm, or you simply want to understand your body more deeply, explore Alex's work and the Agenda app. All the links will be in the show notes. And if you are ready to deepen your emotional, spiritual, and energetic alignment through astrology, psychology, and generational healing, you can connect with me at liveandbegreat.com. Alex, is there anything you want to leave the listeners with? Any information?
just say thank you so much for having me. This is a was such a great conversation. And what we're doing at the agenda period, all of our work is not about creating something new. It's about going back to the way that it was always supposed to be. Like we
Mhm.
know that women lived this way for thousands of years in collective societies, like honoring the seasons, honoring the ebbs and flows, because it actually is just smarter. So we know it's possible. We know that people have done it before, and we're excited to continue to bring this into the modern conversation so that women can feel rested instead of burnt out. So thank you so much for having us.
Of course, and thank you so much for being here. Everyone, please, comment wherever you're watching this, like, share, subscribe with someone who needs to hear this information. If you have a woman in your life, you are a woman, please, please, please take heed to this information. You have nothing to lose, okay? Just try it. Just try some of the things that Alex has spoken about today, that we have spoken about today, okay? You can only go up from here, but the key thing is to give yourself grace and to understand yourself at the end of the day, okay? So, thank you all for listening, and until next time, honor your rhythm, okay? And don't forget to give yourself permission to live and be great. Bye, guys.